I may have got the wrong end of a stick on a certain video or a certain radio program this morning. I was driving into work and I was listening to a good vegan debate again, or it was more talking about the environmental goodness of a plant-based diet. And I only kind of caught the last bit of it, so I'm going to try and listen to what the rest of the caller-ins, the people that called in, have to say. But it sounded like there was some kind of head of some farming group made some weird statement at the end, kind of promoting meat eating by saying, we'll hear it in a minute, I'm sure we'll get to it, that because water in the future is going to be a more unreliable resource, therefore eating vegetables or a plant-based diet isn't a good idea. Don't quite know how he backs that up, that statement. So let's listen to what the people were saying, and let's...
On that subject of global warming and changing our diet, this is a sly attack by the veggie shoe-knitters. I wonder how much organic veggie loveliness travels over the sea from Peru, Kenya, etc. We have natural seafood and meat and dairy on our doorstep, which costs a fortune. Very little vegetable stuff grows here, and we ignore the wonky stuff in our supermarkets. We demand all year-round vegetables too. One more.
That's another one. Scotland is actually brilliant at growing vegetables. We have some of the... certainly the UK... we have some of the best crop-growing, fertile lands there is. Granted, in Scotland, there's a lot of kind of highland area which is just barren and nothing really grows there apart from heather and some deer roam around that area. But in general, the farming area in the UK is very fertile for making vegetables. Granted, it's not going to make avocados, is not going to make almonds, is not going to make cashew nuts, but in terms of the general staple British food of potatoes, carrots, peas, beans, yeah, it's pretty good with beans. Maybe not like fancy pants Japanese edamame beans, but yeah, in terms of a vegetarian diet, yeah, our land is very, very capable of that. We don't have to import from Peru, which is I would say is a valid complaint about people that are saying, oh, we should all be vegetarians, and then they go and eat what's the dragon fruits and avocados and all that kind of stuff only. If you're really kind of wanting to be a full-blown eco warrior, locally grown food is definitely the best. But to try and say that we don't have good land, we have brilliant land for growing brilliant crops. Very nutritious crops as well.
Flexitarianism, what a con. Stop making up puerile labels for codswallop. Climate change can only be tackled by cracking down big time on countries like China, Russia, India, America, whose global corporations are the single key factor in global heating. Your views?
Oh, again, great comment, and true. Yes, I think you changing your diet, yeah, as all vegans would want to believe, oh, if I stop drinking milk, I'm going to save the world. No, you're just not going to be one of the other people that contribute to it. Far more important is India, China, the developing nations, a lot of parts of Africa as well, which are getting more industrialized. They are the major contributors to environmental disaster going on, pollution going on. So that's not to say, because other people are polluting, why should we even try and be healthy and reduce our consumptions of crap? So just because it's that's some sort of fallacy, don't know what it is, but it's like, just because somebody else is bad, it doesn't mean we don't try and reduce our footprint on the planet. Better to be somebody that is contributing less to environmental disaster than somebody who just doesn't care.
Ian in Falkirk this morning. Morning, Ian.
Morning.
Morning. You ready to change your diet to save the planet, Ian, or have you already done it?
Yeah, I've already done it. I went plant-based about 2 years ago, primarily for ethical reasons, because I took part in a few social media campaigns, looked at one or two too many insider videos of what goes on inside meat production and slaughterhouse, the process lines, and I just didn't want to be any part of it. That kind of killing of sentient animals for the sake of taste. But then I began.
This guy sounds like a full-blown vegan, but yeah, great. He's got solid reasons. It's like, I saw the horrible ways that we treat our animals, so don't want to be part of that. Good. And he's not saying because I'm not part of that, I'm saving these animals. He's just saying I don't want to be part of it.
And to realise just how much a contribution the animal production globally makes to pollution and environmental impacts.
Let's not talk globally just for a second, Ian. Let's just talk about Scotland and what we can actually do here. Isn't it far smarter to do what we can do in terms of the seafood that we land, the beef, the lamb, the pork that we raise, rather than flying vegetables in here that we can't grow from other places in the world?
Well, I think there's probably things that they can be done. I think that significantly, we need to consider ourselves part of a global network. We're only a small country, that's true, and we have got to look after our population. But ultimately, this is a global problem that's going to require global solutions, and we've got to be part of it. Do what we can to adjust things. Yeah, absolutely, minimise the local environmental impacts. But I just get a feeling that there's too many people aren't open-minded enough about understanding the impact and being willing to make some kind of adjustment to their diet, because it's they have habits, that they've got customs, and they're just things that they're used to doing, and they don't want to make those adjustments. I just want to increase the awareness of the issue and have people talking more about it.
Well, great example, a great use of buzzwords there. It is habit, it is behaviour, it is what we're used to, and being open-minded. So being vegan doesn't necessarily mean suddenly you hate burgers, suddenly you hate meat, suddenly you have intolerances. It can just mean that you are open-minded to changing your behaviours, changing your mindset, and opening your mind to the horrors which we so want to close ourselves off from in the meat and dairy industries. So good terminology there.
Let's understand, Ian, do that for me right now. Scientists say we should be doing what you've done, switch to a flexitarian diet, eating many more plants and vegetables, much less meat. How easy was it to make the change, and what's your diet like now?
Well, I'm entirely vegan, so I'm purely plant-based. It was actually surprisingly easy. There's a lot of things that can very easily be switched out, really easy substitutes. Apple sauce makes a brilliant substitute for eggs in cakes. As an example, you've only got to do some searching on the internet or buy a couple of decent books if you're a keen cook and do your own cooking. I think even took a lot.
On a side note, before we go on to using applesauce instead of eggs for cakes, it's amazing how in 2018, just how really bad our mobile phone audio reception quality is. It's something which is just astonishing. It's just how much our phones can do maps, it can record our heart rates, it can record our location, it can do videos, it can do slow motion, it can do all that kind of stuff. But to get a good quality audio capture speaking into your phone is something we don't get that anymore. It's everybody, all these call-in shows, the audio quality from everybody's phone is just so crap. Yay, the future. The worst audio in the world. Anyway, random.
Nowadays, I'm increasingly making plant-based substitute fruits and vegetables for people. So if you stick with it.
We're losing Ian's line there, so let me pull back into...
That couldn't have worked out better there. That was perfect, yes. It's so bad as reception, it just gave up.
McLaren, who's a cattle beef farmer, who's been listening to that up in Perthshire this morning. Jim...
Okay, let's hear what Jim has got to say. He's a cattle beef farmer. He's definitely not on the vegan side. But let's hear what he's got to say.
We've seen a huge rise in the number of people who are going vegetarian and vegan. You only have to walk around the supermarket to see the effort that they are putting into this, and they only do it because the customers want it. There is a change happening out there.
Thanks, Stephen. I mean, I've got full respect for Ian's position from Falkirk and his plant-based diet, but again, I'm afraid we're back to oversimplification. All the plants and crops that the vegetarians and vegans might be eating still require fertiliser. The best fertiliser is still organic fertiliser coming from livestock, so we've got a nice virtuous circle there again. I mean, there are...
That's an interesting... Hey... So that's the... You're not vegan because your potatoes are grown with fertiliser, which is from animals. That's, again, that may be a fact, but I think the difference is, yes, but I'm not requiring animals to be killed for me to eat every single meal of the day. You know, milk in my breakfast, butter on my toast, mince in my spaghetti, chicken on my sandwich for every meal of every day that people are having these days. But to then go, well, fertilizer, you're so virtuous. I think vegans can be virtuous over the fertilizer argument. You can't be vegan because fertilizer. Okay, got that one.
Or, as I said before, systems of red meat production that would be, I would regard even as unsustainable. And, you know, we could give an example of that maybe in California, where they're extracting water from deep underground that will ultimately deprive the people of water. They're irrigating maize with that on land in California that could grow several crops of lettuce a year, but they're putting that maize down, you know, feeding it to inefficient ruminants in a feedlot, which is welfare limiting. I mean, all these things play completely to Ian's concerns. And I would...
Right, okay, so he just kind of raised some valid points that in California it's terrible and feeding animals this way is not good and a complete waste of energy and effort. Wasn't expecting that reply, but at least he's open-minded. Okay, this beef farmer's kind of okay with me just now.
Would agree with him. That is not a system of red meat production that we should be supporting, and probably nobody should be eating red meat produced by that system.
Cool.
But in Scotland, to make the difference.
Now here we're going to get the, they're bad, but we're good killing our animals instead. Let's hear this.
We've got our grass growing, our rough grazing. That in itself is capturing carbon and reducing CO2 from the environment, capturing it and locking it up in the soil and in the grass. The animals are eating that. They can't, on land, as we've said, we can't grow vegetables on to produce high-quality protein for you and I to eat here in wee Scotland. And it's a fantastically...
But to think, if the cows didn't eat the grass would continue capturing more of this carbon, which we're so worried about. But also at the same time, methane is 8 times more environmentally unfriendly. Was it heat capturing for the ozone layer than CO2? CO2, everyone's like, yeah, CO2 is terrible, but actually our planet kind of recycles that pretty well. It's the methane which isn't so good. So if we had cows not eating the CO2 capturing materials like grass and not pumping out methane out their butt and not requiring all the kind of stuff behind it to get it to our plate, it would still be more environmentally friendly. He's saying he's not looking at the big picture, but you've kind of looked at one part of the big picture, it sounded like there.
Virtuous cycle. And water is the one we shouldn't forget either. I mentioned water there, but that will be the limiting factor going forward. If climate change changes our planet in the way these scientists are predicting, water availability will be the biggest thing. And we will not be thanked by history if we decide in Scotland to stop making our contribution to that food supply system, which is high-quality livestock protein. we're going to have the water. The water will simply be raining in Scotland and not being utilised, and we will not be thanked for that.
Plenty of rain around today, Jim. Good luck to all the farm.
Totally lost on that. I'm totally lost on his statement there. The rate. What is he saying?
Red meat production. But in Scotland, to make the difference, we've got our grass growing, our rough grazing. That in itself is capturing carbon and reducing CO2 from the environment, capturing it and locking it up in the soil and in the grass. The animals are eating that. They can't, on land, as we've said, we can't grow vegetables on, to produce high-quality protein for you and I to eat here in wee Scotland. And it's a fantastically virtuous cycle. And water is the one we shouldn't forget either. I mentioned water there, but that will be the limiting factor going forward.
So water is going to be the limiting factor going forward.
If climate change changes our planet in the way these scientists are predicting, water availability will be the biggest thing. And we will not be thanked by history if we decide in Scotland to stop making our contribution to that food supply system, which is high-quality livestock protein. We're going to have the water. The water will simply be raining in Scotland and not being utilised, and we will not be thanked for that.
Plenty of...
I don't understand. What was his statement? What was his point? Scotland won't be thanked if we don't utilise the water falling on us. Is he saying... I don't know. It's like he made a statement which seems connected to what we were talking about, but I have no idea what he promoted there. In the future, water is going to be less readily available, so therefore we need to eat more cows. No, so even after listening to this like 3 times now, still don't know what that guy meant. If any of you know what he's meant, put in the comments down below. Cheers. Bye-bye.